Hello, friends. I know I'm just an average guy telling creepy stories, but if you like them and get the scare you're craving for, please leave a like and subscribe. Enjoy the stories. I hired dark web hitman for my girlfriend. I never meant to find it. Nobody does, I suppose. The internet is a labyrinth, a sprawling beast of endless corridors, and most of us stick to the well-lit paths. Social media, streaming sites, maybe a quick dip into some questionable porn before retreating to safety. But I've always been curious. The kind of person who pokes at the edges of things, who wonders what's behind the locked doors. That's how I ended up on the dark web, not because I was chasing anything specific, but because I wanted to see what was out there, what the world hid in its shadows. I'd heard the stories. Drugs, weapons, hacked data, urban legends about red rooms where people paid to watch others suffer in ways that made your stomach churn just thinking about it. I thought it was mostly hype, exaggerated tales to scare off the curious. I was wrong. It started innocently enough. I'd been messing around with Tor, the browser that lets you slip into the underbelly of the internet. I wasn't looking for trouble, just browsing forums, skimming through posts about cryptocurrency scams and leaked government files. The dark web wasn't as glamorous as people made it out to be. Mostly it was clunky websites with bad design, like the internet from 20 years ago. But there was something addictive about it. The thrill of being somewhere you weren't supposed to be. I stumbled across a thread buried in a forum, one of those places where users hid behind strings of numbers and letters for names. The thread was titled Exclusive Access Live Experience. No details, just a string of cryptic instructions and a onion link. I should have closed the tab right then. I didn't. The instructions were simple. Download a specific VPN, route it through a second layer of encryption, and enter a passcode that was provided in the thread. I hesitated. My gut told me to stop, that this was the kind of thing you didn't come back from. But curiosity is a cruel master, and I'd always been its servant. I followed the steps, my heart pounding as I typed in the passcode. The screen flickered and a new page loaded, a bare-bones site with a black background and a single video feed. Below it was a chat box, already alive with messages from users with names like Watcher47 and Silent Bitter. The video was dark, just static shadows, but the audio was unmistakable, a low, rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat amplified through a cheap microphone. I leaned closer, my eyes straining to make sense of the feed. The shadows shifted, and I realized I was looking at a room, dimly lit by a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. The walls were concrete, stained with streaks of something dark. Rust, maybe, or something worse. In the center of the room was a metal chair bolted to the floor. Strapped to it was a man. He was shirtless, his chest heaving, his head slumped forward so his face was hidden. His arms were bound behind him with thick leather straps, and his legs were shackled to the chair's legs. A thin trickle of blood ran from his shoulder, pooling on the floor beneath him. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't a movie set. This was real. The chat exploded with activity. "Show his face," someone typed. "Start the bidding," said another. I scrolled through the messages, my stomach twisting. These weren't just spectators. They were participants, throwing out numbers in cryptocurrency, demanding things I couldn't even process. "Cut his fingers first," one user wrote. "Burn him," said another. I wanted to look away, but my eyes were glued to the screen, my hands trembling on the keyboard. The man in the chair stirred, his head lifting slightly, and I caught a glimpse of his face, pale, gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, like he'd been through hell already. His lips moved, but no sound came through the feed. I turned up my speakers, straining to hear, but all I got was that relentless thumping, now joined by a faint, wet dripping. A figure stepped into the frame, and my blood ran cold. They were dressed in black, their face hidden behind a featureless white mask, the kind you'd see in a cheap Halloween store. But there was nothing cheap about the way they moved. Deliberate, precise, like a predator sizing up its prey. They held a tray, the kind you'd see in a surgical suite, gleaming with tools I couldn't quite make out but knew weren't meant for healing. The figure set the tray on a table just out of the man's reach, and the chat went wild. "Do it," someone typed. "Make him scream." I felt bile rise in my throat, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. The figure picked up something from the tray, a scalpel, its blade catching the light. They turned to the man, who was now fully awake, his eyes wide with terror. He thrashed against the restraints, his mouth opening in a silent scream. The figure didn't hesitate. They pressed the scalpel against the man's chest, dragging it slowly, deliberately, carving a thin line that immediately welled with blood. The man's body convulsed, his head thrown back, and I could see the cords in his neck straining as he screamed, though the audio stayed maddeningly silent. The chat erupted with approval, messages flooding in so fast I could barely read them. "Deeper," someone wrote. "Take his eye," said another. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the mouse. I wanted to close the browser, to run from my room and never look at a computer again. But I was frozen, trapped by the horror unfolding in front of me. The figure stepped back, admiring their work as blood ran down the man's chest in rivulets, soaking into his pants. They set the scalpel down and picked up something else, a pair of pliers. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. The man's head was slumped again, his chest heaving, but he was still alive, still conscious. The figure grabbed his hand, forcing his fingers to splay, and I knew what was coming. I wanted to scream, to tell them to stop, but I was just another faceless user, powerless behind my screen. The pliers closed around the man's index finger, and with a slow, deliberate twist, the figure began to pull. The man's body arched, his mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear, and I saw the skin around his finger tear, blood spurting as the bones snapped. The chat roared with excitement, bids climbing higher, demands growing sicker. I don't know how long I watched. It could have been minutes or hours. Time seemed to dissolve, swallowed by the horror of it all. The figure worked methodically, moving from one tool to the next, each cut and tear more grotesque than the last. The man's chest was a patchwork of gashes now, his fingers mangled, one eye swollen shut from a blow I hadn't even seen. The floor beneath him was slick with blood, the puddle spreading until it reached the edges of the frame. The chat was relentless, users egging each other on, their words a sickening mix of glee and cruelty. I wanted to believe it was fake, a twisted performance, but the details were too real. The way the blood glistened, the way the man's body twitched with every cut, the way his eyes begged for it to end. At some point, the figure stopped, stepping back to survey their work. The man was barely conscious, his head lolling to one side, blood dripping from his mouth. The figure turned to the camera, their mask expressionless, and raised a hand, holding up a piece of flesh I couldn't identify. The chat went silent for a moment, then exploded again, bids skyrocketing. I felt sick, my stomach churning, but I still couldn't look away. The figure typed something into a console I hadn't noticed before, and the screen flickered. A new message appeared in the chat, not from a user, but from the system itself. Session paused, awaiting private bid. The video feed froze, the man's broken body still in the frame, the figure standing motionless beside him. The chat slowed, users speculating about what a private bid meant. I didn't want to know. I wanted out. I tried to close the browser, but my cursor wouldn't move. I clicked frantically, my panic rising, but the screen stayed locked. A new window popped up, a black box with white text. You have been selected for exclusive access. Accept or decline. My heart stopped. I hadn't typed anything, hadn't bid, hadn't done anything but watch. I clicked decline over and over, but nothing happened. The screen flickered again, and the video feed resumed. The figure was closer to the camera now, their mask filling the screen. They tilted their head, as if studying me through the lens, and I swear I felt their eyes on me, even though I knew that was impossible. They raised a hand, pointing directly at the camera, and the chat went dead. No messages, no bids, just silence. The figure stepped back, revealing the man in the chair, his chest barely moving. They picked up a new tool, something long and serrated, and turned to him. The screen went black, but the audio stayed on, that thumping heartbeat louder now, joined by a wet, tearing sound that made my skin crawl. I slammed my laptop shut, my hand shaking so badly I could barely grip it. My room was dark, the only light coming from the faint glow of my phone on the nightstand. I sat there staring at the closed laptop, my heart pounding in my chest. I told myself it was over, that I was done, that I'd never go back. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to see, and now, somehow, it had seen me too. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man in the chair, his body jerking against the straps, blood pooling beneath him, and that featureless white mask staring through the screen. The sound of that rhythmic thumping like a heartbeat echoed in my head, blending with the wet, tearing noises that had played as the feed cut to black. I kept my laptop closed, shoved under my bed like a cursed object, but it didn't help. The room felt too small, the air too thick, and every creak of the house made me flinch. I told myself it was over, that I'd escaped whatever I'd stumbled into, but a gnawing dread told me otherwise. I'd been selected for exclusive access. That message wasn't random. It felt personal, like a hook lodged in my gut. By morning, I was a wreck, my eyes burning from lack of sleep, my hands still trembling. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through normal websites, watching mindless videos, but my thoughts kept drifting back to that room, to the figure with the scalpel and the pliers. I wanted to believe it was staged, some elaborate hoax, but the details were too vivid. The way the man's skin split under the blade, the way his fingers twisted unnaturally after the pliers did their work. No actor could fake that kind of pain. I kept checking my phone, half expecting a notification, a message, something to confirm it wasn't just a nightmare. Nothing came, but the silence was worse. It felt like waiting for a storm you know is coming. I avoided my laptop for 2 days, but the pull was too strong. Curiosity, that cruel master, wouldn't let me go. I needed to know if the site was still there, if it was real, or if I'd imagined the whole thing in some sleep-deprived haze. Late at night, when the house was quiet, I pulled the laptop out from under the bed. My hands shook as I opened it, the screen flickering to life. The browser was still open to that black page, the accept or decline prompt staring at me. I tried to close it again, clicking decline, but the cursor wouldn't budge. My heart pounded as I realized the page hadn't timed out, hadn't reset. It was waiting for me. I don't know why I clicked accept. Maybe I thought it would break the loop, or maybe some sick part of me needed to see what came next. The screen flickered, and the video feed loaded again. The room was the same. Concrete walls, stained and damp, the single bulb swinging faintly, casting long shadows. The chair was empty now, but the floor was still wet, a dark, glistening puddle that hadn't been cleaned. The chat was active, the same faceless users, Watcher 47, Silent Bitter, others, typing in a frenzy. "New guest?" someone asked. "Show us," another demanded. My stomach twisted. Guest. The word felt like a threat. The figure in the white mask appeared, stepping into the frame with that same deliberate grace, carrying a new tray of tools. This time I could see them clearly. A rusted saw, a syringe filled with a cloudy liquid, a pair of shears with jagged edges. They set the tray down and turned to the camera, tilting their head as if acknowledging me directly. My breath caught and I leaned back, my chair creaking under me. The chat slowed, a single message popping up. "Welcome, new bidder." My blood ran cold. I hadn't bid. I hadn't typed anything. But there it was. My presence announced to the room as if I'd signed my name in blood. The figure stepped out of frame, and I heard a door creak, followed by a muffled sob. My heart sank as they returned, dragging someone new. A woman this time, her wrists bound with zip ties, her face streaked with tears. She was younger than the man, maybe in her 20s, with matted hair and bruises blooming across her arms. She was barefoot, her feet leaving faint bloody smears on the concrete as she stumbled. The figure forced her into the chair, securing her with the same leather straps. She thrashed, her screams muffled by a gag, her eyes darting wildly, searching for an escape that didn't exist. The chat erupted. "Start with her hands," someone wrote. "Break her knees," another suggested, followed by a string of cryptocurrency bids. I wanted to scream, to slam the laptop shut, but my hands wouldn't move. The figure picked up the syringe, tapping it to release air bubbles, the needle glinting under the bulb. They leaned close to the woman, who was shaking so violently the chair rattled against its bolts. The needle pierced her arm and she went rigid, her eyes rolling back as her body slumped. The chat cheered, bids climbing higher. I felt sick, my vision blurring, but I couldn't look away. The figure set the syringe down and picked up the shears. They grabbed the woman's hand, forcing her fingers apart, and I saw the terror in her eyes, even through the haze of whatever they'd injected her with. The shears closed around her pinky, the blades biting into flesh, and blood sprayed across the chair. Her body jerked, a muffled scream escaping the gag, and the chat went wild, messages scrolling so fast I couldn't keep up. "More," they demanded. "Take her thumb next." The figure obliged, moving with a calm precision that made my skin crawl. The woman's hand was a mangled mess now, blood dripping steadily onto the floor, mixing with the puddle from before. I tried to close the browser again, hammering the keys, but the screen wouldn't budge. A new message appeared in the chat, not from a user, but from the system. Bid or participate. My heart stopped. Participate. The word echoed in my mind, a sick invitation I didn't want to understand. I typed no into the chat, my fingers clumsy, but the message didn't send. Instead, the screen flickered, and a private window opened, a direct line to the figure. "Choose," a message read, followed by a list. "Shears, saw, scalpel." My stomach churned. They were asking me to pick the next tool. I typed stop over and over, but the words vanished as soon as I hit enter. The figure tilted their head toward the camera, waiting, as if they could see my hesitation. The woman moaned, her head lolling, blood dripping from her ruined hand. I felt tears sting my eyes, my breath coming in short gasps. I couldn't do this. I wouldn't. But the screen flickered again, and a new message appeared. "Choose, or we choose for you." The chat was silent now, all eyes on me, the new bidder, the unwilling participant. I slammed my fist on the desk, my vision swimming, but the message didn't change. I typed scalpel, hating myself as the word appeared. I told myself it was the least brutal option, that maybe it would be quick, but I knew I was lying to myself. The figure nodded, as if approving my choice, and picked up the scalpel. They turned to the woman, who was barely conscious, her chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. They pressed the blade to her cheek, carving a slow, deliberate line from her eye to her jaw. Blood welled instantly, running down her neck, and her body twitched, a weak cry muffled by the gag. The chat roared back to life, praising my choice, bidding higher, demanding more. I vomited into the trash can by my desk, my body shaking as I wiped my mouth. The figure didn't stop, moving the scalpel to her other cheek, then her throat, each cut precise, each one drawing more blood. The woman's eyes fluttered, her body going limp, and I prayed she'd passed out, that she couldn't feel it anymore. But the figure wasn't done. They set the scalpel down and picked up the saw, ignoring my choice, as if to show me I had no control. They pressed it to her arm, just above the elbow, and began to cut. The sound came through this time, a sickening, wet grinding that made my teeth ache. Blood sprayed, bones splintered, and the woman's body convulsed, her eyes snapping open in a silent scream. The screen froze again, the system message flashing. Session paused, awaiting private bid. The figure stepped back, holding the saw, blood dripping from its teeth. The woman's arm hung by a shred of flesh, her chest barely moving. The chat was quiet, waiting, and I felt the weight of their eyes, even through the screen. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands slick with sweat, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out, but the audio didn't stop. The thumping heartbeat, the dripping blood, the faint, ragged breathing. It leaked from the closed laptop, filling the room. I unplugged it, ripped the battery out, but the sound didn't stop. It was in my head now, or maybe it was coming from somewhere else, somewhere closer. I stumbled to the window, peering into the dark street outside, half expecting to see that white mask staring back. The house was silent, but it didn't feel empty. I grabbed my phone, ready to call someone, anyone, but the screen lit up with a notification, a new message from an unknown source. "You can't leave. Not yet." The message on my phone burned into my eyes. "You can't leave. Not yet." My hands shook so badly I dropped the phone, the screen cracking as it hit the floor. The room was dark, the only light coming from the faint street lamp outside, casting long shadows across the walls. The thumping heartbeat from the laptop lingered in my ears, even though I'd torn out the battery. It wasn't just in my head anymore. It felt like it was coming from the house, from the walls, from under the floor. I stumbled to the door, my bare feet cold against the hardwood, and checked the lock for the third time that night. It was secure, but it didn't feel like enough. Nothing did. I didn't dare touch the laptop again, but my phone was another matter. I picked it up, the cracked screen glitching as I swiped. The message was still there, No sender, no number, just those words. I tried to delete it, but it wouldn't budge. Instead, a new notification popped up. A link, an onion address, identical to the one that had led me to the red room. My stomach churned, bile rising again, but I couldn't stop myself. I opened Tor on my phone, my fingers moving on autopilot, and pasted the link. The same black page loaded, the video feed flickering to life. I should have thrown the phone across the room, should have smashed it. But I was caught, trapped by the same sick curiosity that had started this nightmare. The room was different this time. The concrete walls were the same, stained and damp, but the chair was gone, replaced by a metal table, like something you'd see in a morgue. Strapped to it was a new figure, their body covered by a stained sheet, only their head visible. Their face was obscured by a burlap sack tied tightly around their neck, but I could see their chest rising and falling, shallow and erratic. The single bulb swung above, casting jagged shadows that seemed to move on their own. The chat was quieter now, fewer users, but the names were familiar. Watcher 47, Silent Bitter, and a new one. Guest You. My heart stopped. That was me. They'd labeled me, branded me as part of this. The figure in the white mask stepped into frame, their movements slower this time, almost ritualistic. They carried no tray, no tools, just a single object. A long, thin knife, its blade pitted with rust but sharp enough to gleam under the light. The chat stirred, messages trickling in. Show their face. Start slow. Make it last. I wanted to scream, to tell them to stop, but my fingers were frozen on the phone. The figure turned to the camera, their mask expressionless, and I swear they nodded, as if acknowledging me again. They reached for the burlap sack, loosening the rope, and pulled it off. It was a boy. Couldn't have been older than 16. His face was pale, streaked with dirt and tears, his eyes wide with terror. His mouth was taped shut, but his muffled whimpers came through the feed, sharp and desperate. The figure tilted their head, studying him, then turned back to the camera, holding up the knife. The chat exploded, bids climbing, demands growing sicker. Cut his throat. Take his ears. Burn him first. I felt my knees buckle, my vision swimming, but I couldn't look away. The boy's eyes darted to the camera, and for a moment it felt like he was looking at me, begging me to do something. The figure pressed the knife to the boy's cheek, not cutting yet, just letting the blade rest there, a promise of what was coming. The boy's body shook, his wrists straining against the straps, his muffled cries growing louder. The figure dragged the knife down, slow and deliberate, slicing a thin line from his cheek to his jaw. Blood welled instantly, running down his neck, and the chat roared with approval. I gagged, my phone slipping in my sweaty hands, but I couldn't let go. The figure didn't stop. They moved the knife to the boy's chest, carving shallow lines across his skin, each one precise, each one drawing more blood. The boy's screams were muffled, but they pierced through the feed, raw and agonizing. The system message flashed again. Bid or participate. My name, Guest, You, blinked in the chat, highlighted like a spotlight I couldn't escape. I typed stop, my fingers shaking, but the message didn't send. Instead, a private window opened again, the same list as before. Knife, hammer, acid. My stomach twisted. They were doing it again, forcing me to choose, to be complicit. I threw the phone onto the bed, backing away, but the screen stayed lit, the feed playing, the boy's muffled screams filling the room. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound was everywhere, inside me like a parasite burrowing into my brain. I grabbed the phone again, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold it. I typed knife, hating myself, telling myself it was the least cruel option, but I knew it was a lie. The figure nodded, as if they'd expected my choice, and pressed the knife deeper into the boy's chest, carving a slow, spiraling pattern. Blood poured now, soaking the sheet, pooling on the table. The boy's body convulsed, his eyes rolling back, but he was still alive, still conscious. The chat cheered, bids skyrocketing, users praising my choice, calling me one of them. I screamed, my voice raw, and threw the phone against the wall. The screen shattered, but the audio didn't stop. The boy's cries, the wet sound of the knife, the thumping heartbeat, it all kept playing, looping, louder and louder. I ran to the door. fumbling with the lock, desperate to get out, to escape the house, the sound, the nightmare. But the lock wouldn't turn. I yanked at it, my hands slick with sweat, but it was stuck, like something was holding it from the other side. I pounded on the door, shouting for help, but the house was silent except for that endless looping audio. I turned back to the room, my heart racing, and froze. My laptop was open on the bed, the screen glowing, the feed playing. I hadn't touched it. I'd torn out the battery. It shouldn't have been on. The figure was closer to the camera now, their mask filling the screen, the boy's bloody form blurred in the background. They raised a hand, pointing directly at the lens, and the chat went dead. A new message appeared, not from a user, but from the system. "You're next." My blood ran cold. I stumbled back, tripping over my chair, and fell to the floor. The screen flickered and the feed changed. It wasn't the concrete room anymore. It was my room. My bed, my desk, my window, with the street lamp glowing outside. The camera angle was high, like it was mounted in the corner of the ceiling. I looked up, my heart pounding, but there was nothing there. No camera, no device. Yet the feed showed me sprawled on the floor, my face pale, my eyes wide with terror. The figure stepped into frame, not in the concrete room, but in mine. They stood in the doorway, their white mask gleaming, the knife still in their hand, blood dripping from the blade. I screamed, scrambling to my feet, but the door was still locked, the knob useless. The figure moved closer, their steps silent, deliberate. The chat was alive again, users typing frantically, "Do it! Make it quick. Show us everything." I grabbed the chair, swinging it at the figure, but it passed through them like they were a ghost. The screen flickered, and they were gone. But the feed still showed my room, my trembling form, the empty doorway. I don't know how long I stood there, clutching the chair, waiting for something to happen. The audio looped, the boy's screams blending with my own ragged breathing. My phone, shattered on the floor, buzzed, the cracked screen lighting up with a new message. "See you soon." I dropped the chair, my legs giving out, and collapsed against the wall. The feed was still playing, the camera still watching, but the figure didn't return. Not yet. I haven't left my room since. I can't. The door won't open, the windows won't break, and the audio never stops. The thumping heartbeat, the dripping blood, the muffled screams. They're part of me now, woven into every moment. I've tried smashing the laptop, the phone, but they keep coming back, screens glowing, feeds playing. Sometimes it's the boy, sometimes the woman, sometimes the man from the first night, their broken bodies staring at me through the screen. Sometimes it's me, my own face, my own blood, like a preview of what's coming. I don't know how they found me or why they chose me. Maybe it was random. Maybe it was because I clicked that link, because I didn't look away when I should have. All I know is they're watching, waiting, and I can't escape. The chat is still active. Users bidding, demanding. Their words a constant reminder that I'm not just a witness anymore. I'm part of it. And somewhere, out there or in here, the figure in the white mask is getting closer. I will never doubt about red rooms again. I couldn't stop shaking as I sat in front of my laptop, the screen's dim glow casting jagged shadows across my bedroom. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, slick with sweat, as I stared at the browser window I'd opened hours ago. It wasn't a regular browser, not Chrome or Firefox, but something else. Something I'd downloaded from a sketchy forum after days of digging through threads that made my skin crawl. The dark web. I'd heard the stories. Everyone has. It's where you go when you want things you can't find anywhere else. Drugs, weapons, hacked data, or worse. I didn't believe half the rumors, not until tonight. Not until I found him. It started with a fight. My girlfriend, Sarah, had been distant for weeks, her texts short, her excuses flimsy. I'd catch her staring at her phone, smiling at messages she wouldn't show me. When I confronted her, she screamed, called me paranoid, and stormed out. That was 3 days ago. She hadn't come back, hadn't answered my calls. But I wasn't paranoid. I knew she was cheating. I'd seen the signs. The late nights, the locked phone, the way she'd flinch when I touched her. I needed proof. Something to confront her with. something to make her admit it. That's what led me to the dark web. I wasn't looking for anything crazy, just a way to hack her phone or track her location. But the deeper I went, the stranger things got. The forums were a maze of cryptic posts and broken English, people offering services I didn't understand. Crypto scams, forged passports, things I didn't want to touch. Then I stumbled across a thread titled, Solutions for Personal Problems. No explanation, just a string of replies, each one vaguer than the last. One caught my eye. Discreet, permanent, contact for details. No name, just an email address and a string of numbers. My heart thudded as I copied it down. I told myself I was just curious, that I wasn't going to do anything stupid. But curiosity is a trap, and I was already caught. I sent an email from a burner account, expecting nothing. Within minutes, I got a reply. No greeting, no signature, just a single line. What is your problem? My hands shook as I typed out a vague response about wanting information on someone. I didn't mention Sarah, didn't give details. I wasn't ready to cross that line. The reply came faster this time. Information is temporary. I offer finality. Name your target. My stomach twisted. Target. The word felt like a blade sliding under my skin. I closed the laptop and paced my room, telling myself to delete the email, to forget it. But I couldn't. The idea of finality, of making the pain stop, of erasing the betrayal, clung to me like damp rot. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I was back at the keyboard typing her name. Sarah. I didn't say why, didn't explain, I just sent it. The response was immediate. $5,000, Bitcoin, 48 hours. My breath caught. $5,000. I didn't have that kind of money, not even close. But the number was so specific, so real, it made my head spin. This wasn't a scam. This was someone who meant it. I wrote back, saying I couldn't afford it, expecting radio silence. Instead, I got another email. $2,000, one-time offer. Send proof of intent. Proof of intent. I didn't know what that meant, but the price drop felt like a hook sinking deeper into my chest. I had $2,000. Barely. My savings, scraped together from odd jobs and skipped meals. I could do it. I could end this. I spent the day researching Bitcoin, fumbling through wallets and exchanges, my paranoia spiking with every click. What if this was a setup? What if the cops were watching? But the dark web was anonymous, right? That's what everyone said. By evening, I'd sent the payment to an address that looked like a random string of letters and numbers. Then came the next email. Proof of intent. Send a photo of her. Recent. My heart stopped. A photo. I had hundreds. Sarah laughing at the beach. Sarah asleep on my couch. Sarah's silhouette against the sunset. I picked one from last month. Her standing in our kitchen, smiling like nothing was wrong. I attached it and hit send before I could think too hard. The reply came with an attachment. I hesitated, my cursor hovering over the file. It was a video, small, only a few megabytes. My finger trembled as I clicked. The screen went black for a second, then flickered to life. The footage was grainy, shot from a low angle, like a phone propped on a table. A man sat in a chair, his face blurred beyond recognition, his voice distorted into a low mechanical growl. He wore a dark jacket, gloves, and a hood that swallowed his features. Behind him, the room was bare. Concrete walls, no windows, a single flickering bulb. He leaned forward, and even through the distortion, I could feel his eyes on me. You paid, he said, his voice scraping like gravel. You sent the photo. This is your contract. He held up a printout of Sarah's picture, her smile obscene in his gloved hands. She will be gone in 48 hours. You will not know when. You will not know how. Do not contact me again. The video cut to black. My chest tightened, and I realized I wasn't breathing. I played it again, then again, each time hoping I'd misunderstood. But the words were clear. I'd done this. I'd paid a stranger to kill her. Panic clawed at me. I tried to email him back, to undo it, to beg him to stop. The messages bounced. The address was gone like it had never existed. I scoured the forums, searching for the thread, but it was deleted. My hands shook so badly I could barely type. What had I done? I didn't mean it. Not really. I was angry, hurt. But I didn't want her dead. I grabbed my phone and called her, my heart pounding as it rang and rang. No answer. I texted, my fingers fumbling. "Sarah, please, call me. I'm sorry." Nothing. I drove to her apartment, banging on the door until my knuckles bled. The lights were off, her car gone. I told myself she was fine, just out, ignoring me. But the video played in my head, his voice looping. "She will be gone in 48 hours. I didn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every sound outside my window was him, coming for me instead. I kept my laptop open, refreshing the dark web browser, hoping for a sign, a way to stop it. Nothing. The hours dragged, each one heavier than the last. By the second day, I was a wreck, jumping at shadows, checking my phone every minute. Sarah still hadn't answered. I drove to her work, a coffee shop downtown, but her co-workers said she hadn't shown up in days. I felt like I was drowning, the weight of what I'd done crushing my chest. That night, I got another email. No subject, no text, just another video file. My hands shook so badly I could barely click it open. The same grainy footage, the same concrete room. But this time, he wasn't alone. A figure sat in the corner, slumped, their face hidden by a hood. My stomach lurched. The man's distorted voice filled the room. "Proof of progress," he said, tilting the camera toward the figure. Their hands were bound, their clothes torn. I couldn't see their face, but the hoodie, red with a small rip at the sleeve, was hers, Sarah's. I screamed at the screen, my voice raw, begging him to stop. He didn't react, just zoomed in on her hands, her fingers twitching, blood crusted under her nails. "Payment received," he said. "Contract fulfilled tomorrow." The video ended. I threw up in my trash can, my body shaking so hard I could barely stand. This wasn't a prank, this was real. I'd paid for this. I tried calling the police, but what could I say? I'd hired a hitman on the dark web. They'd arrest me, and Sarah would still be dead. I tried her phone again, over and over, until the battery died. I drove to her apartment again, breaking in through a back window. It was empty, untouched, her bed still made. But on the kitchen counter, there was a single photo, me, taken through my bedroom window, staring at my laptop. My blood froze. He'd been watching me. I don't know how I made it through the night. I sat in my car outside her place, clutching a kitchen knife, waiting for something, anything. The deadline was tomorrow. I had to find her, had to stop him. But as the sun rose, my phone buzzed with a new email, another video. I didn't want to open it, but my fingers moved on their own. The same room, the same man. Sarah was there, still hooded, her body limp. He held a knife, its blade catching the light. "You wanted finality," he said, his voice cold. "You'll have it." He raised the knife and the screen went black. I screamed, throwing my phone against the dashboard. I was out of time. I drove to every place I could think of. Her friends' houses, the park, the coffee shop. Nothing. My mind raced, piecing together fragments. The concrete room, the flickering bulb. Where was it? I had to find it. I had to save her. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd started this. And whatever happened next, I'd never escape it. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, the city blurring past in streaks of neon and shadow. The knife I'd grabbed from Sarah's kitchen lay on the passenger seat, its blade glinting under the streetlights. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to find her before the 48-hour deadline hit. The video kept playing in my head. Sarah, hooded, her bloodied fingers twitching, that monster's voice promising finality. My stomach churned, bile rising in my throat. I'd done this. I'd paid him, and now he was watching me, that photo on Sarah's counter proof he'd been close enough to touch. I drove aimlessly at first, circling her apartment, the coffee shop, the park where we used to walk. Every alley felt like a threat, every shadow a figure waiting to step out. My phone sat silent in my pocket. No new emails, no calls from Sarah. I'd tried her number 100 times, each unanswered ring tightening the knot in my chest. The dark web browser was useless now, the thread gone, the email address dead. I was alone, chasing a ghost I'd created. By dawn, exhaustion burned my eyes, but I couldn't stop. I pulled into a gas station, splashing cold water on my face in the grimy bathroom, trying to think. The concrete room in the videos, bare, windowless, lit by a single flickering bulb, had to be somewhere. A basement, a warehouse, something abandoned. I racked my brain for places Sarah might have been taken. She didn't go anywhere strange, didn't know anyone shady. But I did. I'd brought this into her life. I started with the industrial district, a sprawl of crumbling factories and empty lots on the edge of town. The streets were quiet, the air thick with the smell of rust and oil. I parked near an old warehouse, its windows boarded, the chain-link fence sagging. My heart pounded as I slipped through a gap, the knife tucked into my jacket. The building was a maze of rusted machinery and broken crates, the floor slick with puddles that smelled like chemicals. I called Sarah's name, my voice echoing off the walls. Nothing, just the drip of water and the skitter of rats. I searched 3 more buildings, each one filthier than the last, my shoes sticking to floors coated in grime. My phone buzzed as I climbed back into my car, and my heart stopped. Another email. No subject, just a video file. I didn't want to open it, but my fingers moved on their own, clicking before I could think. The same concrete room, the same hooded figure, Sarah, slumped in the corner. Her hands were still bound, but now her fingers were still, no twitching, no sign of life. The man's blurred face filled the screen, his distorted voice cutting through me. "You're looking," he said, and I swore he was smiling. "You won't find her. 12 hours left." The camera panned to a table, where a metal tray held tools, pliers, a saw, a syringe filled with something dark. My vision blurred, and I realized I was crying, my breath hitching as I slammed the phone down. He knew I was searching. How? Was he following me? I checked my rearview mirror, half expecting to see him there, but the street was empty. I tore out of the lot, my mind racing. I needed help, but who could I tell? The police would lock me up. My friends would think I was crazy. I thought of Sarah's best friend, Emily, but she hadn't seen her either. I'd called her yesterday, and she'd been as worried as me. That left me with nothing but the knife and a ticking clock. I drove to the only other place I could think of, an old storage facility near the river, a place Sarah's dad used to rent for his contracting business. She'd mentioned it once, said it was creepy, abandoned now. It was a long shot, but I was desperate. The facility was a cluster of low buildings, the kind with roll-up doors and peeling paint. The gate was locked, but the chain was loose, and I squeezed through, my jacket catching on the metal. The place was silent except for the hum of distant traffic and the occasional creak of the wind against the roofs. I started with the first row, checking each unit, most of them padlocked or empty. My flashlight beam shook as I moved, catching spiderwebs and rusted tools. Then, in the 3rd row, I saw it. A unit with the door slightly ajar, a faint light leaking from the gap. My heart thudded so loud I thought it would give me away. I gripped the knife and crept closer, my shoes crunching on gravel. The air smelled wrong, like copper and decay. I nudged the door open with my foot and the light hit me, a single bulb flickering just like the videos. The room was concrete, bare, exactly like the one I'd seen. My knees buckled. In the corner, a chair sat empty, ropes coiled on the floor, stained with something dark. Blood. I gagged, stumbling back, my flashlight sweeping the room. No Sarah, no hooded figure, but the walls were scratched, deep gouges like someone had clawed at them. On the table, a metal tray, just like the video, with pliers, a saw, and that syringe, its needle glinting. Next to it, a phone, its screen cracked but glowing. I grabbed it, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. The screen showed a paused video, the timestamp from an hour ago. It was her. Sarah, her face pale, her eyes wide with terror, blood streaking her cheek. The man's voice was mid-sentence. "Payment for betrayal." I hit play, and it continued. "You thought you could stop this," he said, his blurred face looming. "She's already gone." I screamed, throwing the phone against the wall. It shattered, but the sound didn't stop. His voice echoed in my head, mocking me. I tore through the unit, ripping open boxes, kicking over crates, looking for any sign of her. Nothing but dust and bloodstains. My phone buzzed again, and I froze. Another email. I opened it, my vision swimming. This time, it wasn't a video. It was a photo, A close-up of Sarah's face, her eyes closed, her skin gray, a thin line of blood running from her mouth. The caption read, "Contract fulfilled." I don't remember driving home. I don't remember how I got to my apartment, the knife still clutched in my hand, its blade now streaked with my own blood from gripping it too hard. I sat on the floor staring at my laptop, the dark web browser still open. I wanted to believe it was a lie, a trick, but the photo burned into my mind. Her face, lifeless, her eyes empty. I'd done this. I'd paid for her death. And now she was gone. I tried to call Emily again, my last hope, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I left a rambling message, begging her to tell me Sarah was okay, that this was all a mistake. Then I saw it. Another email, sent while I was on the phone. No subject, just text. "You saw the proof. Now you pay the price." My heart stopped. Price? I'd already paid. What more did he want? I clicked reply, typing frantically, demanding answers. But the email bounced again. I slammed my fist into the desk, blood dripping from my knuckles. Then I heard it, a creak, soft but deliberate, from the hallway. My apartment was small, just a bedroom, a bathroom, and a living room that doubled as a kitchen. The hallway led to my front door, which I'd locked. I grabbed the knife, my breath shallow, and crept toward the sound. The air felt heavy, like someone else was breathing it. Another creak, closer now. I flicked on the light, but it didn't help. The shadows seemed to move, curling around the edges of my vision. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. No answer, just the hum of the fridge and the pounding of my own heart. I checked the door, still locked, the chain in place. But the window was open, just a crack, the curtains swaying. I hadn't touched it. I ran to it, slamming it shut, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the frame. Outside, the street was empty, but I felt eyes on me, the same way I'd felt them in that photo of myself. He was here. He'd been here. My phone buzzed again and I nearly dropped it. Another video. I didn't want to watch, but I had to. The same concrete room, the same flickering bulb. But this time, it wasn't Sarah in the chair. It was me. My face, my eyes wide with fear, my mouth taped shut. The camera zoomed in, and his voice growled, "You thought this was about her. It's about you." The screen went black, and from somewhere in my apartment, I heard a low, mechanical laugh. The laugh echoed through my apartment, low and mechanical, like a distorted recording seeping from the walls. My phone trembled in my hand, the black screen reflecting my own wide-eyed terror. The video had shown me, bound, gagged in that concrete room. But I was here, in my apartment, the knife still clutched in my sweating palm. My heart slammed against my ribs, each beat screaming that he was close, that he'd been close this whole time. The open window, the photo of me, the laugh. It wasn't just about Sarah anymore. It was about me. I spun around, the knife raised, expecting to see him in the shadows. The hallway was empty, the light flickering like it was mocking me. I checked the door again, still locked, the chain untouched. But the air felt wrong, thick with that coppery decay I'd smelled in the storage unit. I backed into the living room, my eyes darting to every corner, every shadow. My laptop sat open on the desk, the dark web browser still glowing, a silent taunt. I wanted to smash it, to erase everything, but it was too late. I'd opened the door to this nightmare, and it had walked right in. My phone buzzed again, and I flinched, nearly dropping the knife. Another email. No subject, just a single line. "Look behind you." My blood froze. I whipped around, the knife slashing at nothing but air. The room was empty, the couch, the kitchen counter, the closed bathroom door, all normal, all wrong. I stumbled to the bathroom, kicking the door open. The shower curtain was drawn, and for a second, I saw Sarah's face in my mind, gray and lifeless, blood trickling from her mouth. I ripped the curtain back. Nothing. Just the drip of the faucet, each drop sounding like a heartbeat. I was losing it. My breath came in ragged gasps, my vision blurring. I sank to the floor, the knife clattering beside me. The email was a trick, a game to break me. But the video of me, how? I hadn't been taken, hadn't been tied up. Was it fake? A deep fake to mess with my head? Or had he been here drugging me, filming me while I slept. The thought made my skin crawl, like spiders skittering under my clothes. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera, scanning the room for anything. A hidden lens, a wire, a sign he'd been inside. Nothing. Just my own reflection in the screen, pale and hollow, like I was already dead. Another buzz, another email. This one had an attachment, a photo. I opened it, my hands shaking so badly I could barely swipe. It was me again, but not in the concrete room. I was in my apartment, sitting on the floor, holding the knife, staring at my phone. Exactly where I was now. The timestamp was 5 seconds ago. My head snapped up, my eyes scanning the ceiling, the corners, the vents. He was watching me. Right now. I screamed, scrambling to my feet, the knife back in my hand. "Where are you?" I shouted, my voice raw. "Show yourself, you coward!" The only answer was silence, heavy and suffocating. I ran to the window, checking it again. Still locked now, but that didn't mean anything. He'd been here before. I tore through the apartment, flipping cushions, ripping open cabinets, looking for a camera, a bug, anything. I found nothing, but the feeling of eyes on me didn't stop. My phone buzzed again, and I almost didn't look. I didn't want to see another photo, another video of my own fear, but I couldn't stop myself. This time it was text. "You can't run. You can't hide. The contract is complete." Below it, another video file. I clicked it, my stomach twisting. The concrete room again, the flickering bulb casting jagged shadows. Sarah was there, still hooded, her body slumped in the chair. The man stood behind her, his blurred face unreadable, his gloved hands holding a knife. My knife, the one I'd taken from her apartment, the one I was holding now. I looked down at it, the blade streaked with my blood from gripping it too hard. In the video, he raised it, the metal glinting. "You wanted finality," he said, his voice a low growl. "You got it." The knife came down, and Sarah's body jerked, a muffled scream escaping the hood. Blood sprayed, dark and thick, splattering the concrete. I dropped the phone, retching, my vision swimming. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. But the blood, the sound, she was gone. I staggered to my feet, the knife falling from my hand. I had to get out. I grabbed my keys and ran for the door, fumbling with the chain. My phone buzzed again, but I ignored it, yanking the door open. The hallway was dark, the building quiet except for the hum of the elevator. I sprinted for it, slamming the button, my breath hitching. The doors opened, and I froze. Inside, taped to the back wall, was another photo of me, taken from behind, in my apartment moments ago. I stumbled back, the doors closing, and ran for the stairs instead, my footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. Outside, the night was cold, the streetlights casting long shadows. I got in my car, locking the doors, my hands shaking so badly I could barely start the engine. I didn't know where to go, just away, anywhere. I drove. The city a blur, my mind spiraling. Sarah was dead. I'd killed her. And now he was coming for me. My phone buzzed again and I screamed, throwing it into the passenger seat. But I couldn't resist. I pulled over, my hands trembling as I opened the email. Another video. This one was different. The concrete room was gone. Instead, it was my apartment, filmed from above, like a security camera in the ceiling. I saw myself, sitting on the floor, staring at my phone, the knife beside me. The footage was live. I looked up, searching the ceiling for a camera I knew wasn't there. The video panned, following me as I'd run to the door, then cut to black. A new scene appeared. Me, in my car, right now, looking at my phone. My blood ran cold. I whipped around, checking the back seat, the windows. Nothing. But he was there somehow, watching. The video continued, and his voice came through, distorted and cold. "You thought you hired me," he said, "but I chose you." The camera zoomed out, showing my car from above, parked on the empty street. Then it shifted, showing a figure in a dark jacket standing across the road, holding a phone, filming me. I looked out the window, and there he was, hood up, face blurred by shadow, staring right at me. I screamed, flooring the gas, the car lurching forward. I didn't look back, didn't dare, but my phone kept buzzing, email after email, each one a new photo. Me driving, me glancing at the rearview mirror, me gripping the wheel. I drove to the police station. the only place I could think of. I'd tell them everything, take the consequences, anything to make this stop. But as I pulled into the lot, my phone buzzed one last time. A final video. I didn't want to watch, but my hands moved on their own. It was the concrete room again, but this time it was empty. No Sarah, no chair, just the flickering bulb. The man stepped into frame, his face still blurred, his voice a knife in my chest. "You paid for betrayal," he said. "Not hers. Yours." He held up a photo, not of Sarah, but of me, smiling with her months ago before everything fell apart. "You betrayed her trust," he said, "and now you pay." The camera panned to the floor, where a body lay, face down, blood pooling around it. My body, my clothes, my hair, my phone clutched in a lifeless hand. I touched my face, my chest, feeling my own heartbeat, but the video didn't lie. It was me. The screen went black, and the car filled with that mechanical laugh, louder now, coming from everywhere. I looked up, and the streetlights were out. The lot dark, except for one figure standing under a tree, holding a phone, his hood hiding his face. I didn't scream this time. I didn't move. I just sat there, the knife on the seat beside me, the phone still buzzing with new emails I'd never open. The figure didn't move, didn't come closer, but I knew it was over. I'd paid for finality, and he'd delivered, not just for Sarah, but for me. The contract was complete. Thank you for listening. Hope I didn't scare you too much. If you like my stories, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. See you next time.